working together. One of my favorite stories about you is the fact that we worked together for a while and then decided you needed something better, and then you came back. That's a great story all by itself. But thinking back to the time that we really started working together, what was the biggest reason you decided to hire me? What were you hoping to accomplish?
Originally, I hired you. I was just looking for guidance on growing my business. I was a one-man company, and I don't even know if I had an employee yet, but I might have hired Amy by then.
I think Amy was working for you at the time.
Yeah, so it was just Amy and I, and you're kind of one man on an island sitting out here and looking for guidance. I've always believed in following best practices. I've always believed in coaching. I've used it in my personal life for setting goals, and I was looking for some guidance from somebody with experience in the business to do that. So, and when you're out all by yourself working, I learned early in life from a mentor that it's easy to just veer off and go off here in left field and not know you're out here all by yourself. But if you have best practices, you kind of follow the parallel of the growth process. So it's easy to get off track on your own and not be reset. So coaching helps bring you back as you drift back to, I guess, best practice or norms or whatever the path to success is. So that's what I was after.
Yeah, so that's great. And I know that in the work we've done together, we've accomplished a whole bunch of stuff. But if you think back about maybe the last several years, what do you think the biggest things are that we accomplished, kind of the biggest milestones you've hit in your business? Because obviously the most important thing is that for people who might be listening to this video, kind of understand the kinds of things that you've accomplished and that I've been a part of with you.
Yeah, I think the things starting back a long time ago, big accomplishments, just goal setting every year, forcing me to sit and think about the business, not just keep working in the business, as the E-Myth book says, keep the big picture in mind. And then we wrote a book. I wrote a book and you helped me write a book. And that was a major milestone. I think that was in 2007 or 8, right before the market crashed. But I don't remember what I was making at the time. I just know my income went probably 50% that year after we did seminars and invited people to watch a PowerPoint seminar around the book topics and gave the book away. And that boosted income dramatically. I remember another milestone when you helped me reset my pricing, because when I was young, sometimes you aren't confident and you want to gain clients and you think pricing is the way to gain clients by being lower cost or more affordable, and you helped correct my mindset about that maybe values found in maybe being a little higher price than everybody else. So we reset prices, and that was another major jump in income. I didn't change it for what I call grandfathered clients. I just changed for new clients going forward and in the first step. But then as the years went, I went back to those original clients and moved them up as well. So that, when I look back at that, not only did we make more income that year, but every year now, as I keep growing, I remember that, yeah, we'd be making a lot less money for that. And you helped me with employee issues over time. That's kind of the negative side of business at times, to talk about gripes or whining about employees, but to just be a sounding board for dealing with employee issues. And then most recently, actually 4 years ago, we hired a junior partner or a succession. We implemented a succession plan. And so I knew that I always like to think about 10 years out in front of myself, where I want to be. And when I got to 55, I said, I better have a succession plan in place. So the industry best practices were saying to do that. And I knew I was at that stage, and I could put it off for a while, but I think some people wait to the last minute and they just wake up and decide it's time to sell, and there's nobody to sell to. And then you're just going to sell to highest bidder or best bidder, and it may not be optimal price. And by internally transitioning, you're going to end up with a better price and a better transition for your clients. So one thing I was reading is you guys, financial planners, our clients should expect us to have a plan for our transition so that they're taken care of in the future if I'm not going to be here, because I don't plan on being here till age 85 or 90, just to make sure they make it to age 85 or 90. And so they deserve that from me, that I can think well enough in advance to have a good plan. I was challenged at one point that said, if you were to die, is this the kind of firm that you want your wife to come back to when you're not here? And before I had a succession plan, I wasn't sure about that. And but now I am sure about that. I told my wife, my widow, at that point to come back and visit with Dave, and that's part of that succession plan. So you should build a firm you're proud of, and succession planning allows you to do that, to bring the right person in, somebody you want your wife to work with, somebody that you want your clients to finish off the retirement with if you're not here. So they deserve that, and then it brings better value to me at the same time. So that was a major thing we've done recently.
Yeah. So I guess maybe to put a little bow around that, when we did the book, that we created a project that really gave you some quick lift to your revenue.
Exactly.
And we kind of raised your prices. We were just kind of making sure that you were pricing what you were doing relative to your value, so that what your clients pay is fair. That's also fair to you as someone that provides a high level of service to your clients. And then we've also thought about the long-run stuff when it comes to succession planning. So it's not just been about growth. Although I'm guessing you would admit that you push yourself to grow a little faster and more, because I like to push numbers every year.
You will push me some. I remember early on, it's like I kept saying, don't push me too fast. I'm also a CPA, and I can only do so much. And I just hold myself back a lot. And that's confidence again. I also think in raising prices, another thing happens. You then feel inspired to try to add value to deserve that price. So you're delivering a process or a service to clients. And if you're a low-cost provider, you kind of excuse yourself for giving less than optimal service, and you justify it that way, and you think you're winning because of price. If you're a higher-cost provider, then you find a way to step up and provide extra value. So both the client wins from that, and you win from it. So it's a win-win that's worked well. I think it's accelerated our growth, that process overall. So we've been probably growing 15, even some years 25% a year, steadily. Yeah.
When you think about me as a coach, and the process that we work through, what sets me apart? What's a little bit different than other things you've experienced as you've worked with coaches or people who have mentored you or helped guide your business?
So I was thinking about that this morning, and sometimes we get advertised to, or emails or phone calls from other coaching services, and a lot of those have high promises of exponential growth or outlandish promises of what you can achieve. And maybe when I went away from you to another place for 2 or 3 years and then came back, I realized some of that snake oil salesmanship a little bit. They overpromise and then underdeliver. And I think my experience working with you probably reflects closer to what I think Peter Drucker and the Japanese concept of constant, never-ending improvement. And so it isn't any one step is super remarkable all the time, except we did list out a bunch of big achievements that helped grow fast. But in general, day to day, month to month, incremental improvement, just constant adding and adding and adding, and that adds up to that 15 to 25% growth. So you didn't come out and promise, hey, I'm going to grow you 25% a year and you're going to double it in 6 months or a year. Or I just don't think that works to try to shoot for the moon. But it's a series of, instead of improving one thing 100%, maybe improving 100 things 2% each. And that's how the growth has come in this firm. It's just constantly looking at all the details and improving each one incrementally to the benefit of the client. And that seems to have worked well for us. So as I reflect back, that's probably the thing I appreciate the most, is the incremental improvement constantly over time. So we've been working together for quite a while. I remember, I think our first phone call, I reflect back, we might have had 30 million of assets, and then I've grown it up to over 100, 120 million, I think, when we did the succession plan. And that was 40 years ago, and we're at 225 today. So pretty much have closely doubled in 4 years. So that results have happened, but it was without over-promising what those would be.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very flattering that you say that, and it's obviously testimony to you and to your whole team. So that's really kind of all I want to talk about in terms of your business and my business. Let's talk about what advice you might give somebody who's going to hire a coach. What would you suggest that they look for? Because I know when I talk to people, sometimes, they're looking unrealistically kind of for silver bullets. And
yeah,
I try to be straight up because I know that there are no silver bullets.
Well, that's just what I was just talking about, is sometimes a person trying to attract the client is over-promising silver bullets or exponential achievements. And so maybe soft selling it's harder to sell or attract somebody. But I would tell them that's what they should be looking for, is somebody that's more humble in the process, that has core values that match yours, somebody that has experience. Same things when we're trying to get a client to use us, what we want them to think about us. We want, hey, I'm a solid, trustworthy person that's using proven processes that have worked over time. And I'm not promising them that they're going to double their income. Their resources are what they are. So we have to take people where they are. You take people like myself where we are and help add improvement to it. And we have to, sometimes we're a little bit strong-willed, and because we're leaders with our clients and our communities. Well, when you work with a coach, you got to give up a little bit of that strength. It seems like you're giving up strength, I should say. Humble yourself a little bit and listen. And so you and I have a joke. I remember you've said on a coffee mug once, you're right again, Rob. So there's times that you would suggest something and I would rebuke it because I just knew better. And then over time, we just keep coming back to it. And finally I go, yep, I went ahead and tried it your way and you were right. And I was, for some reason, resisting. Well, that's what a coach does for you is not that you're always right, but it's like I'm often not right as well. And you gotta learn to listen a little bit and humble yourself as a client, because you're paying somebody to help you. And so you should respect their opinion and at least try it, experiment with it, and see if it works for you. And if not, you just adjust. And that's what retirement planning is about. You apply a skill, you observe the results, and you adjust. And that's what coaching does. So you're flexible in that regard, because we all live in different communities. We all have different personalities and different niches. And you keep feeling around the edges till you find the key that works with people. So it takes time.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. And I really think that, but with you kind of responding to those three main questions, you've really given somebody who might be watching this video a good sense of how I work together. So I guess you'd say you've had some good ROI for the investment you make, because you even tell me I'm not cheap, and I am not trying to be. I'm not trying to be cheap. But,
no, you should. Just like
the payoff's there.
We shouldn't be cheap. And that's where I had to learn that process. And you have to take a little risk as a client sometimes to hire. And then we stair-stepped into it. We started with a very modest, I think it was building my elevator speech was the first thing we did. And it was like $39 or something like that, a little self-study course I did. And then we stepped up to a monthly call. But sometimes you feel like you're taking a risk, you're spending money, and you don't see results right away. But it's that cumulative effect. You got to stick with it. And just like we were working on Facebook campaigns, and the very first year we were spending money with Facebook every month and with you, and we didn't get any clients from that. It just didn't seem to be, but we just kept adjusting, and all of a sudden the thing started to pay off. I think we were looking at, we had a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 payoff last year, which think about, so I invest $100, I get $200 back in revenue. I know I not only get that $200 this year, then I get it perpetuity going forward. So it's an infinite payoff that happens. So all these increment changes, growth that's happened. So we've doubled in 4 years. Well, that revenue continues, changing the prices, a higher revenue per client. That revenue continues infinitum into the future forever. So it's hard to even say ROI is a fair way to evaluate it. because it's, yeah, if I get 1-to-1, 2-to-1, that's good, but I get it forever.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it. In fact, that's the way that I would prefer that you look at it, because that just makes the number even bigger. And truthfully, it's really the when you're thinking about the growth and adding new ideal clients, it's the lifetime value of those clients relative to the amount of money that you invest in acquiring them. So if you associate the cost of internal expenses, my help with that, we've invested in some outside things like Facebook. All that adds up, and you can't be saying, well, I want to spend X number of dollars and I'm okay earning less. You've got to bring in some multiple of that, and it needs to be something that lasts. And I think that's what's happening in your business.
And so to do it, you have to have a little bit of patience too. So you invest, you plant seeds, you keep taking care of them and doing the right thing, and try not to get frustrated right away. I still remember when I was on my own years ago, and I ran a little ad in the paper. The very next weekend, I was sitting by the phone waiting for it to ring, and it didn't ring. And it's like, well, that was a waste of money. Well, ran the ad again, the phone rang one time, and I got a client, and I was like, well, that paid for the ad. But it's a branding in your community over and over and over again. Keep dripping on people, dripping on prospects, and trying to find that key to attract them. But lifetime value, income, but then even beyond that, I'm always thinking enterprise value. So if a firm is worth 2.5 times sales, you pick up a $10,000 client a year, and it costs me a few $1,000s to get that client. Well, it's worth $10,000 for every year I work, but it's also worth $25,000 when I sell. And that's what I've been trying to build, is this enterprise value that I can sell, and it creates a huge retirement.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's it. I appreciate your taking the extra time it took to get this call together. And I know we're going to talk next week.